Welcome to the computer stream. We are seeing a series of lectures in the subject Agile Methodologies. We will be seeing about who an Agile coach is, what is his role. You might be knowing as a contents of the session, we will be seeing what is a technical language, what is a business language, what is the difference between a technical language and a business language, what are the roles of an Agile coach, what are the additional responsibilities that are required for an Agile coach. You might be knowing who an Agile coach is. An Agile coach is a person, he is said to be, and he is also called as an XP coach, or he is also called as a Scrum Master. As far as Agile methodologies are concerned, you might be knowing the different methodologies available. One of the methodology is said to be extreme programming. The second framework, you call it as a Scrum framework. You might be knowing the difference between a methodology and a framework. A methodology is a model, extreme programming is a methodology or a model, Scrum is a framework, framework is customizable, tailor-made. That is, you can make it according to your own need. In your extreme programming, you have a coach. That coach is called as an extreme programming coach, XP coach, or he is also called as an Agile coach. Similarly, in your Scrum framework, you have a master called as Scrum Master. So, the Scrum Master is also an Agile coach. So, here, but more prevalence is given to the XP coach. So, XP coach is called as an Agile coach. Now, before we could see the roles and responsibilities of an Agile coach, we will first of all will see the difference between a technical language and a business language. What is a technical language? Where do you use it? What is a business language? Where do you use it? And we will see it as a difference. In the technical language, it uses specialized vocabulary which will be understandable only to the development team. So, this technical language, it is being used by the development team members alone. That is, in this technical language, you will be having what sort of functionalities that are to be used, what are the members, what is a class, what are the variables that you are going to use, how you are going to dispose those variables. So, those details will be made available in this technical language. As far as a business language is concerned, it is a normal English like language. This language is used by the customer. The customer, he will be using it in order to illustrate his requirements to the business analyst. So, this language is used by the customer or and his customer representatives. So, okay, my dear students, who is the customer? What is his role? Or who is a client? Who is an end user? Who is a user? Are all both one and the same? No, not at all. A customer and client is said to be one and the same. A client is the most superior part of an organizational unit. What does it mean? Most superior part of an organizational unit? Why do I claim this? It is because a client, only because of the customer, only because of the payment that is going to make to the company, as employees of the firm, the developers and whoever has been employed in the firm, whoever has been involved in the project will get the salary. That is the reason a customer or the client is said to be the most superior part of the organizational unit. Again, my dear students, it is a definition. Again, my dear students, why am I not saying it as of an organization? Why am I saying it as an organizational unit? A client or a customer is the most superior part of an organizational unit. Why do I say it as an organizational unit and not as an organization as that is? Here in an organization, there will be n number of projects will be going on. So, each and every project that has been handled will be called as a particular unit. So, In one organization, minimum, say for example, there are 10 projects are going on, which means we have 10 different units with 10 different customers. So each and every project you call it as a unit. So my dear students, it is an important 2-mark question or an objective question too, wherein the definition of customer or client says that a customer is a most superior part of an organizational unit. So here, okay, who is an end user? An end user is a person who consumes the product. Then what does the customer do? A customer is a person who purchases the product. Take for example, when you take the example of a provisional store, the employee is available or the owner of the provisional store, he will be getting all the rice material, all the dal material from an organization, from a manufacturing sector. So he will purchase it and we go to the provisional store, get all those dal and rice items and we consume it. So we are called as the end user. The person available or the owner of the provision store is said to be a customer and he purchases it from the manufacturing unit. Similarly, in a software firm, the development unit, they develop the software. So that software will be purchased by the customer and whatever he is going to purchase it, it will be consumed or it will be operated or it will be utilized by the end users. So my dear students, a customer is a person who purchases the product and end user is a person who consumes the product. So here in the case of business language, in the business language, the customer and the customer representative, they use this business language which is said to be a normal English like language. Okay, to whom do they communicate? They communicate to the business analyst. A business analyst is a person who does all sort of analysis with respect to the business. He is the person who communicates or he acts as a mediator between the customer and the organization. So he is the person who communicates with the customer and whatever the customer says, that will be converted into the technical language and that technical language, it will be passed on to the development team in order to go in for the coding part. Then let us see who an agile coach is. What are the roles played by an agile coach? As I said, an agile coach is also called the extreme programming coach, XP coach, or a scrum master is also an agile coach, but more prevalence or more relevance is given to the XP coach. So the XP coach is called as the agile coach. Let us see the roles played by an agile coach. As far as the roles are concerned, the agile coach acts as a facilitator, he acts as an advisor, he acts as a tutor. Tutor, who is a tutor? He acts as a teacher. He trains the people, the development team, and he is responsible, he sees to that we get a proper product has been achieved by the development team. He acts as a mediator. Mediator, to whom he is going to act? He acts as a mediator between the development team and the top management. He acts as a mediator between the top management and the customer. So he is a mediator. He acts as a translator. What do you mean by translation? Why should he need to act as a translator? It is because supposing if you have got a project, say for example, you own a development firm and you have got a project, but luckily or unluckily your customer is said to be a Chinese client, wherein usually there are certain exceptions, but usually the Chinese people, they are not highly conversant in speaking in English as we people do. So when the customer is going to speak in Chinese, we might not be in a position to understand what he is going to say. So what he will do is, okay, you mean to say that all the agile coach will be knowing n number of languages? Definitely not, that is not practically possible. So what he does is, he will be putting it into the translator tool. He will get all the contents, whatever is being said by the Chinese client, he will record all the contents and he will put it in his own words, and that too in English, and he will convert the Chinese language into a English language, normal English language. So he acts as a translator. He then sends it to the customer or the customer representative and asks him whether whatever he has translated, whether it is correct or wrong. So the role of Agile Coach is to act as a translator. Then the Agile Coach acts as an advocate. Who is an advocate? What does he do? Advocate usually practices in court. Does an Agile Coach go to court? No, not at all. He needs to safeguard. Agile Coach is something like a boss, something like a team leader, something like a project manager. My dear students, when you studied your software engineering course, you would have studied the traditional life cycle model. In the traditional life cycle model, you would have had the project manager in almost all the models. Say for example, when you take up one of the model called as waterfall life cycle model, you have a project manager, project leader, team members. Similarly, there you have a project manager. In XP, extreme programming, you have a person called as Agile Coach. What is the difference between a project manager and Agile Coach? A project manager, there you have all sort of hierarchies. Here in the case of Agile Coach, he used to do hand holding. What do you mean by hand holding? If the developer is said to be pretty new, if he does not possess any sort of experience, what does he do is, it is the responsibility of the Agile Coach to train the developer and see to that he gets the work done from the developer. So he has to do the hand holding process, and that is the reason here XP Coach is also called as Agile Coach. So he is responsible for coaching. Okay. After coaching, how will he act as an advocate? Supposing if the top management is not going to pay the developer, or supposing if some issue happens at the developer end, it is the responsibility of the Agile Coach to safeguard the developer. So when he is going to safeguard the developer from the top management or from the customer end, supposing if any failure or any fault has happened, so he has to safeguard. So when he is going to safeguard, he acts as an advocate. He advocates and he safeguards his own team members. So what will happen? Then there will not be any kind of bossy situation, boss-like situation as you could see in your traditional life cycle model. That is the major difference between a traditional life cycle model and an Agile software development model. In Agile software development model, everyone is treated equal. So when he is going to do the advocacy job, naturally the collaboration between the team members will increase. Naturally the fear of boss and subordinate will go off. Everyone will be treated equal. So that is the reason here in Agile Coach he acts as an advocate. Then he is a concluder. What do you mean by the term concluder? He is responsible for completion of the project. Agile Coach is responsible for success of the project or failure of the project. Agile Coach has every right to keep a member, development team member within the project, or supposing if the development team member is said to be incorrigible. What do you mean incorrigible? If they are not willing to work at all, if they are so lethargic, he has every right to remove that particular member from the team. So he, Agile Coach, acts as a concluder. So these are some of the roles played by an Agile Coach. Let us see in detail about the roles played. Now, as facilitator or as advisor or as tutor, he provides support and guidance to the team members. He makes the members know about the Agile Manifesto, values and principles and the available Agile methods. My dear students, what do you mean by Agile Manifesto? What are the values? How many values are there? How many principles are there? You have one manifesto which is being developed by 17 people, out of which the extreme programming founder Ken Beck was also one of the member, and you have 4 values and you have 12 principles. Okay, my dear students, when did this Agile principles came into effect? It is effective from 2001, nearly 20 years since this Agile principles were framed by 17 software professionals working in different countries across the globe. So, it is the responsibility of the Agile coach to make the members know about the Agile manifesto, values and principles and the available Agile methodologies. So, he is as well responsible to wipe out the false notions and misunderstandings about the Agile practice. He motivates the team to be devoted to the agreed work plan, which means supposing if the team member is lethargic, if he is not capable enough, or supposing if the team member finds it difficult in terms of communicating with his own peers, then he should be in a position to motivate the team to be devoted to the agreed plan. Agile coach should help the team members voice their views freely, because as far as this extreme programming is concerned, as far as this pair programming, which is said to be one of the technique available in this extreme programming is concerned, a team member, they should come out with their own opinion. They should voice their opinions freely. The more and more they collaborate, the more and more success they can achieve with respect to this Agile project. Then, as far as the Agile coach, he acts as a mediator. Who is a mediator? A mediator is a person who acts as an envoy between the customer and the team members. He is responsible for gathering the changes in requirements. Why do you need change in requirements? As you have this change in requirement, that is the reason mainly we go for Agile software development model. When the requirements are stable, we would have been with respect to the traditional life cycle model such as the waterfall model itself. There would not be any need to go in for this Agile software development model. As you have a frequent change in requirement, we go in for this Agile software development model. So, an Agile coach is responsible for gathering the changes in requirement. He clarifies the customer queries. He will try hard to fulfill the customer expectations. He demarcates the business language used by the customer and the technical language used by the developer, and he corresponds accordingly. Like the Agile coach, he should not go to the customer and he should not say that these are the functions that we used, sir, these are the artifacts that we used, these are the faults that has come, so that is the reason we are not able to deliver the small releases as it was planned. Like that, no, he cannot go and say, because if he is going to say like that to the customer will not be in a position to understand, because the customer does not know the technical language. He knew only the business language. So to the customer end, he has to say, sir, this is said to be the small release we are supposed to deliver on this particular date. There is a flaw, there is a some sort of issue happened in the team. We will see to that it gets cleared shortly, and we will see to that it is delivered to you on time. Likewise, the Agile coach has to speak to the customer, and such a language you call it as a business language. But to the technical team, he has to say it as, this function, if it is going to work, this function is dependent on the other function. This function has an interdependency. This function is independent. In this function, this particular variable is used. this function, this variable is not decomposed. That is the reason the program is slow in its execution. Likewise, he has to speak to the development team. Such a communication, you call it as a technical communication. So, he is not supposed to mix both the business communication and technical communication. So, he should respond or correspond accordingly. Then, an agile coach should enable to overcome the language barrier. As I said, if you have a Chinese client, how you are going to react? And apart from language barrier, there are few countries wherein you have the cultural differences. If your client is said to be from Africa, the Africans, there are exceptions again. The Africans, usually you have a sort of cultural differences. They behave in a different way than we behave. We behave in a different way than they behave. So, he is said to be like the agile coach should be at the middle level, and he should see to that there is no cultural difference at all. There is no language barrier at all. So, he is responsible for the success of project. So, he needs to get the requirements from the customer end, whomsoever the customer may be. He may be an African, he may be a Netherlands, he may be from Chinese. So, whomsoever it may be, he needs to get the requirements and he needs to give it to the technical team. He needs to see to that the work is done. He needs to dispatch the output or the releases, the features to the customer. He needs to get the approval from the customer end, acceptance from the customer end. So, that is the reason an agile coach acts as a mediator. Then, in the case of distributed projects, there are three types of projects, my dear students. One is called as in-house project. An in-house project is a project which is being carried out within the same organization. The second type of project is called as co-located project. The co-located project, what do you mean by co-located teams? As far as a co-located team is concerned, say for example, you have your firm in one particular place. Say for example, you have a firm in Chennai, in one particular place of Chennai. The other firm is also in Chennai, which is at a distance of 20 kilometers or which is at a distance of 10 kilometers. You have third firm which is at a distance of 10 kilometers. Now you have three firms belonging to the same company. Supposing if there is a meeting, if people they wanted to meet on a face-to-face discussion rather than the video conferencing, if they wanted to meet on a face-to-face discussion, definitely it is possible to call upon the person working in a 10 kilometer distance, the person working in a 20 kilometer distance, and you can meet at a centralized point and you can discuss your issues. So, such a kind of team you call it as a co-located team. Then what is the third type of team is called as distributed team. Such a kind of projects is also called as distributed projects. Then what is a distributed team? Say for example, you have a company, that company is in Chennai, the second company is in Delhi, third company is in Mumbai, fourth company is in California, fifth company is in London, then in that case, sixth company is in Paris, then France capital Paris. Then it is not possible to call all the members, whoever is involved in this project, maybe they may be called as a stakeholder. Stakeholder, who is a stakeholder? A stakeholder is a person who is involved in this particular project. So, he is called as a stakeholder. But all these members, they cannot be brought into a centralized location, they cannot be met face to face. Such a team who are located across the globe in various countries are said to be called as a distributed team, and those projects are said to be called as distributed projects. So, this customer should be involved to prioritize the feature list, and the team members should assure continuous delivery of minimum marketable features. As far as we are speaking about the role of mediator with respect to distributed projects, and in a distributed project, continuous feedback should be obtained from the customer or his customer representatives. And when there are several voices of the customer, they should be prioritized and addressed carefully. What does this mean? When do you have several voices of customer? Some projects will have 3-4 customers. That is, the customer will have their own offices in UK, US, Netherlands, Zambia, so on. So each and every office will have their own head. For each and every office, you are supposed to give the same set of software with different functionalities of according to each and every office. So in that case, there will be several voices of customer. One customer will say, I need this functionality to be completed. Other customer will say, as far as Zambia is concerned, I need such functionalities to be completed. As far as UK is concerned, we have certain restrictions with the government. So according to the government policy, you are supposed to complete such kind of work. So it means you have different voices of customer. So everything has to be addressed by the Agile coach. Then it is the responsibility of the mediator and Agile coach to make sure that the work has been distributed properly and it is getting completed at the correct phase. So now let us see how an Agile coach works as a translator. He tries hard to fulfill all the customer expectations. Usually, as far as the Agile software development is concerned, they don't satisfy the customer needs. First of all, they will satisfy the customer needs, but later on, at the end of while they are delivering the final product, they will see to that the customer is getting delighted. Customer gets delighted rather than getting satisfied. So delight is more than satisfaction, more than what he requires. So the Agile software team usually delights the customer. So he tries hard to fulfill the customer expectation. An Agile coach should demarcate the business language used by the customer and the technical language used by the developer, and he should enable to overcome the language barriers. Then next is, as an advocate, he educates the top management by stating the importance of Agile methods and their practices. The top management usually they do not know what an Agile method is. They will say, why should I invest? What will happen if it is going to if the project going to be successful? What will happen if the project ends up in a failure? If I am going to invest, because usually the companies will speak with respect to the ROI, return on investment. So, and the Agile coach should be responsible for making business decisions with the consent of the top management. Supposing the customer is going to say, I need these many features to be deployed in this particular date. So he, not only the Agile coach, he needs to discuss with the top management in order to fulfill the business decisions. And an Agile coach, as an advocate, he should suggest solution for costing, demand supply gap, and for staffing. An Agile coach, as an advocate, should invoke support to funding that facilitates continuous delivery. Then the Agile coach, he acts as a concluder. Who is a concluder? A concluder is a person who concludes the entire project. So an Agile coach should assess the suitability of team members and their performance in enabling their continuation. An Agile coach should monitor the caliber of team members iteration after iteration. Usually this Agile software development itself is a fast paced project. It is suitable for a small scale, for faster delivery, fast paced projects. So when the projects are fast paced, you need to have the team members who are so dynamic, who are capable of doing or who are capable of adapting to all sort of changes, who are willing to work at a faster pace, who are committed to work and who are willing to complete the task at a faster pace. So you need to have such a kind of team member. So it is the responsibility of the Agile coach should monitor the caliber of each and every team member iteration after iteration, and he should identify the incorrigible team members and he has to get them removed with the support of top management. He has to inform the top management. He has to say that if a team member is not willing to work, if the team member is not able to accommodate, or if he is not able to collaborate with the team, then it is not a good decision to have him in the team. So he has to identify incorrigible team members and to get them removed with the support of the top management. We will see how the Agile coach interacts with the top management support and how he makes the customer acceptance. An Agile coach has to convince the top management to welcome the transition, because usually the top management, they would have worked with all sort of traditional life cycle models like waterfall model, evolutionary model, prototyping model, spiral model, win-win spiral model, RAD model, so on and so forth, or commercially off-the-shelf components they would have used, but they might be new in working with this Agile software development. So it is the responsibility of the Agile coach to convince the top management to welcome the transition. A pilot project has to be carried out by the Agile coach to make the customer satisfied at free of cost, and an Agile coach should frequently check whether the team is dynamic, whether the team is active, whether the team is enthusiastic. If not, it is the responsibility of the Agile coach to motivate the team. If not, the Agile coach should be given the privilege to reshuffle the teams. So let us see the additional responsibilities of an Agile coach. So if the team member is not so enthusiastic, if the team member finds some sort of sluggishness, some sort of lethargy in working, some sort of issues among the team members, it is the responsibility of an Agile coach to motivate the team members. It is the responsibility of the Agile coach to reward the team members at appropriate moments. He should encourage continuity during the initial days after transitioning from traditional life cycle model. Now let us summarize this session. We saw about the roles played by Agile coach, the top management support in terms of Agile projects, the additional responsibilities of an Agile coach. Thank you.